Just when you thought things couldn't get any worse for MMA fans in 2025, I just checked UFC 316, or at least the card they have so far for the big hyped up rematch between O'Malley and Dvalishvili, and this card is utter garbage. Not only is the main event a fight that we do not want to see, nobody asked for, and there's zero hype on it, but this card is actually even worse than some of the decent fight nights we are going to get in the future, okay? We also have some good news, though, in this video that I'm going to show you guys. UFC 317, there's a lot of good fights on there. That's International Fight Week, so that actually is some good news. UFC 317 is looking like it may be pretty stacked, depending on what the main event will be. I really hope it's Makhachev versus Topuria, although if JDM wins this weekend, I don't know if that's going to happen. But the undercard as of now is looking solid. I'm going to show you guys some of the fights that are on there. And we also have some other news. Benoit Saint Denis has a new opponent. He's going to be fighting Kyle Prepolek, UFC legend. And this is a step up in competition, man. I'm going to talk about this fight at the end of this video. I'll give my official prediction. Let's be honest, this is a really good moment for Benoit Saint Denis. Joel Alvarez was probably going to beat him up, and now he has a massive step down in competition. So official prediction will be coming up at the end of this video. But first and foremost, before we get into the good news, this card is garbage. This is literally a fight night. And you cannot tell me that, well, no, but the main event, though, the main event was only hype back in September before we saw it. We've already seen it, and the fight sucked. Yes, there's always a chance that in a Sean O'Malley fight, we'll see Sean O'Malley get a viral, highlight reel-worthy KO. 100%. But if that doesn't happen, and even if it, forget the result of the main event, just as far as how hyped this card is this going to occupy any space in your mind throughout the next few weeks? All right, we have a drought coming up. Not only is the pay-per-view this weekend terrible, but we have two horrible Apex cards back-to-back. As I said in my last video, just excuses for the UFC to show us the same 1,000 ads over and over and over again. And I say 1,000, I should say the same 10 ads 1,000 times over and over and over again. But the point is, forget the result. Like, there's absolutely nothing to get excited for about this card. And don't even start with Juliana Pena, Kayla Harrison. Listen, I'm actually going to be real. That actually is a good fight. And even though good WMMA fights are usually shitty anyway, like I guarantee you Shevchenko and Fiorat's going to be a dog shit fight, this fight is actually going to be kind of interesting because there's some trash talk. And also, you know, Juliana Pena comes to scrap. Kayla Harrison, she'll go in there to scrap. She actually had a tough outing in her last fight. She didn't look that great on the feet, and Juliana Pena is a step up in competition, so we actually could see a gritty fight there. But let's be honest, it's still WMMA. Like, we can't get that hyped for it, and the main event is just not hype at all. Nobody gives a fuck about O'Malley and Merab. That's the type of fight where you're only excited a couple of days out, and we've already seen it, so you can only get so hyped. This is literally worse than the Azerbaijan card that I'm going to show you in a minute. Because after those two fights, and keep in mind, one of them, yeah, I know, two title fights, right? Yeah, but one of them is WMMA, so it doesn't really count. Welterweight, Vicente Luque, Kevin Holland, as a feature fight in 2025. If this was 2021, it would be different. If this was 2022, it would be different. But in 2025, Luque is a husk of his former self. He's pretty much washed up. He's like the youngest washed up UFC fighter ever. And I don't mean any disrespect to Vicente Luque. I'm a fan of Luque, but let's be honest, he's not the same guy. All right? Kevin Holland is the fighter that doesn't care if he wins or loses. So how are we supposed to care about him? If this guy goes in the cage with a fuck it mentality, that doesn't exactly get fans hyped to see a war. Even stylistically, it's okay, but you get my point. This is just not pay-per-view worthy. And listen, I know that some people may say, Lucas, you're always complaining about these cards. All you do is complain. But listen, this is a pay-per-view card. All right? They are charging $80. The UFC's been hiking up the pay-per-view prices every single year. All right? It's going to be like $100 next year. It's unacceptable to have this product be exactly the same in quality as a free product that they're pumping out, such as the Fight Nights. UFC pay-per-views should be head and shoulders above and beyond better than the Fight Nights. I don't think that's too much to ask for. I mean, the Azerbaijan Fight Night that I'm about to show you guys is not even that great. It's just good. A UFC pay-per-view should not be on par with a fight night, because obviously we have different standards for fight nights and pay-per-views. Pay-per-views should be something that we're extremely hyped for. And I know that the UFC is capable of giving us like 12 to 15 solid pay-per-views where every single one of the 5 fights on the main cards are all great. And you say, well, that's not realistic. Well, yes, it is. Because what they often do is they'll have a decent pay-per-view and they'll just steal a fight off of it just so that they can use that one fight to main event an entire fight night, just so that they can sucker people into sitting through tens of thousands of the same fucking ads over and over again, just so you can get to that one decent fight. That's how they get us. And they know there's such a big fan base of hardcore fans. Though there's a huge amount of them these days after 2020 and, you know, the Adesanya rivalry, the Oliveira era. There's so many new fans that are hardcores that will sit through shit just to get to one decent fight at like midnight at the Apex. All right? So I'm not being negative. I'm just calling out the bullshit. Like, this needs to be called out. The UFC is slipping quite a bit as far as quality goes. They're doing the bare minimum these days. And, you know, I'll be the first guy to make a whole video on a pay-per-view being stacked. I mean, how many videos have I made where the thumbnail is UFC 300 is stacked or UFC 306 is unbelievably stacked, and I sort of break down the whole thing even before I make my prediction videos, right? I give the UFC credit where it's due. All right, as I will do at the end of this video, UFC 317 is looking pretty good. But they need to be called out for this. And the thing is, if nobody ever called the UFC out for this stuff, if fans never push back and people just take what the UFC gives them, the UFC has absolutely no incentive. They have no reason to improve the quality of their product. If people continue to watch dog shit pay-per-views and dog shit Apex Fight Nights, why on earth would the UFC ever change? They'll do the same thing if they have the same amount of people watching, all right? They'll continue to decrease in quality if they can maintain the same amount of money that they're making, right? So this stuff needs to be called out. If no one calls it out, then congrats. Like, the UFC is just going to get worse and worse. And I'm not saying that I'm the only one. No, but like, if there's nobody calling it out, then we keep getting worse and worse. So I have to call it out. This is not an interesting feature fight for a fucking pay-per-view. This is a fight you would literally see on an Apex card, I swear. You could literally see this on your average Joe fight night. Kelvin Gastelum, Joe Pyfer, that's actually a sick fight. I'm not going to complain about that. But Marlon Vera, Mario Batista, it's a fight night fight. It's not a pay-per-view fight. Marlon Vera at one time had more hype. He's coming off of 2 losses. He just doesn't have hype. And we know in these big fights, he probably loses to these heavy pressure wrestlers. And Mario Batista isn't exactly a fireworks type of fighter. He's known for being boring, dude. Or at least the last outing was pretty boring. He's had some okay fights. But this fight isn't that good. I know it's a ranked bantamweight fight. And usually bantamweight fights are sick, but let's be honest. This particular stylistic matchup is probably one of the least hyped. The most boring out of any stylistic matchup you can make between 2 ranked bantamweights. This is a shit fight for a pay-per-view card. Bruno Silva versus Joshua Van. I love Joshua Van. He's one of my favorite fighters. But Bruno Silva has 0 hype. If this was Joshua Van versus Manel Kape, where they're throwing someone to the wolves like Ikram Moleskov versus Whitaker. If this was Joshua Van getting a huge step up in competition, fighting someone that already has been around and they've been in the rankings for all, it'll be one thing. But Bruno Silva, he's like the least known ranked opponent, dude. He's the least known ranked fighter in flyweight. How did he even get to the rankings to begin with? He's one of those guys. You don't even know how he got there. This is not a pay-per-view worthy fight. And again, I like Joshua Van, but this doesn't make you hyped. Johnny Walker, Azamat Murzakanov, it would be hype if we thought Johnny Walker had potential to not get KO'd. Unfortunately, he gets KO'd in every single fight. This is essentially Azamat Murzakanov going out there to fight James Vick. All right? I know it's Murzakanov, density maxer. I know Johnny Walker, Wildman Walker, bro. Wildman Walker. Let's be honest. Wildman Walker's not actually entertaining himself. The only thing that is capable of being entertaining is seeing him get KO'd right now, because Walker's at that point in his career where he does not fight in an entertaining way because he knows how easily it is for his opponent to knock him out. Therefore, he fights in a safe way. He's a leg kicks at range guy these days, and he still gets knocked out. This is not the same Walker that we saw on the come-up before he fought Corey Anderson, all right? Or the guy that we saw when he was fighting Paul Craig. It's a totally different Johnny Walker. So let's see. This fight, it's literally for a fight night. This shit could be on like the feature fight of a fight night. This is like the early prelims of a pay-per-view. Joshua Van Bruno Silva, that is not a pay-per-view worthy fight. Marlon Vera, Mario Batista, that is the headliner of the prelims. That's the last fight on the prelims before the big pay-per-view. You understand? And actually, if you think about it, those fights that are set up right before the pay-per-view are supposed to be entertaining stylistic matchups that make you want to buy the pay-per-view. And this stylistic matchup is like the worst one you could possibly make at bantamweight, because Marlon Vera is Mr. Low Output that can get held down, and Mario Batista is Mr. Hold You Up Against the Fence. So that ain't even good for that. Dude. And then we have Vicente Luque, Kevin Holland. Oh, wow, that would have been so sick in 2021. Let's show you this. Let me show you this. This is the Azerbaijan card. Fight that we've never seen before. Jamal Hill, Khalil Roundtree. Main event. Yes, it's not a title fight with the Bantamweight GOAT and Sean O'Malley. I get it. But, dude, this is almost as good. It's a fight we haven't seen before. That's a sick fight. Co-main event, Rafael Fiziev versus Ignacio Bahamondes. That is way better than Juliana Pena and Kayla Harrison. Nazim Sadikov, Nicholas Mota. Dude, that's a sick fight. I'm telling you that's better than Vicente Luque and Kevin Holland. No, it's not. It's not better than that. But that's also in a weird spot. But wait a second. Hamdi Abdel Wahab versus Muhammad Usman. No, that's not a great fight. But, yo, wait a second. Ismail Nurdayev versus Jong Young Park. That, I'm telling you right now, is going to be better than Luque versus Kevin Holland. And you want to say no? Okay, how about Curtis Blaydes versus Rizvan Kuniev? The point that I'm making is you could take Curtis Blaydes and Rizvan Kuniev and put it on this card and take away Vicente Luque and Kevin Holland, and it's a better card. All right? Rafael Fiziev versus Ignacio Bahamondes is better than every single fight on this card except for O'Malley and Dvalishvili. And you know what? We haven't seen it before, so it's actually even better. Okay? Like, it just is. Jamal Hill, Khalil Roundtree shits on everything that's on this card. This is a fight night, dude. It's literally worse than the Azerbaijan card. How are they getting away with this? It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. Like, this is free. This is $80. It doesn't make any fucking sense. I'll give you the ranking for the best to worst, okay? Merab, that's the best fight with Merab and O'Malley. Kelvin Gastelum, Joe Pyfer. Luque Holland is not that good. I'm sorry, dude. It's just not that hype. Watch it be like the best fight of the year, but I'm telling you, it's not hype. It has zero hype. It might actually be okay on the night of the fight, but guys, when we talk about how good a pay-per-view is, we're talking about how good it is on paper. How much hype does it draw? How many eyes is it going to draw? All right? Okay, you're going to have some great fights between fighters that no one knows, but, you know, if no one watches, no one's going to even know. Okay? We're going to watch because we're hardcore fans. And then you may say, well, if you're a hardcore fan, why does it even matter? You're going to watch anyway. Because it's a fucking pay-per-view and it costs $80. Like, this is unacceptable. 2 title fights, don't even start. That's not an excuse for them to roll this shit out. All right? This is a good fight. Gastelum and Pyfer. Marlon Vera, Mario Batista, like, you know, it's just not hype. I'm sorry, man. And that's it. Everything after that sucks. Actually, you know, this is not the worst card in the world. Watch me gaslight myself into thinking this card isn't that bad, guys, because I know there's some hardcore fans watching this that are going to be like, bro, and to be fair, Johnny Walker versus Azamat's actually pretty sick. It's not, dude. It's just a free KO for Azamat Murzakanov. It's a non-fight. All right, bro, Ariane De Silva versus Wang Kong is dope. Stop. Okay? Bruno Silva versus Joshua Van. Yeah, dude, it's great if it's the first fight on the freaking early prelims. It's a great... I love Joshua Van, but come on. Bruno Silva for a pay-per-view, you're not going to get hyped. He's the least popular flyweight on the roster, and he's ranked. I don't even know how that's possible. Marlon Vera, Mario Batista. I mean, I'm going to say it for the millionth time. It's just not a good bantamweight stylistic matchup. It's probably the worst one you could ever make. Marlon Vera is one of those fighters where you always are like, oh, this is about to be a war. And he throws like 3 punches around. Or, you know, he fights someone very durable and nothing really happens. He rarely has those like classic fights. The one that he had with Rob Font. He shit the bed against O'Malley. His fight with Figgy wasn't that good. You know, it's low output Vera versus hug him up Mario Batista. Joe Pyfer versus Kelvin, that's a good fight, but I'm sorry, man. This card sucks, dude. And it's $80, and this is what we're getting. They need another big fight, but it is what it is. Let's get on to better news. UFC 317, guys, has a new fighter that's going to be on it. Islam Dulatov, making his UFC debut. This is one of the most hyped up, if not the most hyped up prospect that just got off of the Contender Series from Germany. I believe he is Dagestani, but he's from Germany, and he's fighting Adam Fugit on UFC 317. This is pretty much just going to be a Dulatov showcase. It's going to be a massacre, but that's actually good. This will be like the first fight of the night on UFC 317. This is literally a better fight than a bunch of the ones on the O'Malley one. And look at these other fights that are on the card too. Michael Johnson, Daniel Zellhuber. That's actually pretty sick. Michael Johnson's been on a roll as of recent, getting a lot of KOs. Daniel Zellhuber, very entertaining. Brandon Royval, Manel Cap, that's epic. That'll probably be on the main card, but you know what? That's worthy of being on the main card. Paulo Costa, Roman Kopylov. If you really want to stack a UFC International Fight Week card, you should put that as the headliner of the prelims. I know that Costa's a big name. I know Roman Kopylov's entertaining, but like, I want this card to be so stacked that that's after Michael Johnson, Daniel Zellhuber, and still on the prelims, okay? We also have Tracy Cortez and Viviana Arahu, man. Everyone's super hyped up about that, man. And then we also have Jonathan Deniz versus Justin Tafa. So we've got some good fights. Justin Tafa, Jonathan Deniz, that's probably going to be on the prelims. That's going to end in a KO. Johnson, Zellhuber, that's going to be a war. Paulo Costa, Roman Kopylov, if they really stack this, and I guarantee you they're holding out for the big fights. They probably have a bunch of big fights that are booked. They're just waiting on the results of UFC 315, Bilal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena to see what is next, whether it's going to be Topuria versus Makhachev or Topuria versus Oliveira. So I'm hoping that everything here, everything that's official on here, might not even be on the main card. Although, I guarantee you Royval and Cap will be on it. And Dulatov is going to be on it too, so that's actually pretty good. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 great fights that are on it already. I guarantee you, besides the main event, they're waiting to announce like another 2 or 3 good fights as well. So UFC 317 is going to be stacked, which is good. I really hope that it's not Oliveira and Topuria. Again, I know that Oliveira and Topuria is a good fight on paper. It's just such a step down from Topuria and Makhachev, and you can't tell me that it isn't. Oliveira has been beaten multiple times in the past few years. He just had a decision against Michael Chandler. It's just nowhere near as hype as Topuria versus Makhachev. It just isn't. It's a good fight, but it's going to be a major letdown if that's the main event, just because that means that we'll never see Topuria versus Makhachev. And that alone just kind of ruins the hype of Ilia Topuria fighting for the belt at 155. I know that it's big for Makhachev to move up to 155. I understand that. I mean, to 170. I know that's a big thing for the sport, but Makhachev versus JDM, Topuria versus Oliveira. We've seen Oliveira lose before, you know. We've not seen Topuria lose, and we've not seen Islam lose since he was a tadpole, okay? When I say Oliveira lose, I'm not talking about the early fights. I'm talking about the recent ones. Makhachev versus JDM. Listen, Jack Della Maddalena, I know popularity and hype is not all based on followers, but what does he have, like 500,000 followers on Instagram? If he wins the belt, he's going to have like 700,000. He doesn't have the biggest personality to hype himself up. Makhachev versus that is just not as big as Makhachev with 10 million followers on Instagram versus Ilia Topuria with like 8 million followers on Instagram. It's just nowhere near as hype. So I want to be right this weekend, and I like Jack Della Maddalena, and I'd love to see him win the belt. But listen, just for that freaking main event, if that's what it takes, then whatever, dude. Like, I really just want to see Makhachev versus Topuria. Okay? We also have Benoit Saint Denis versus Kyle Prepolek. This is a tough one. Nah, I'm joking. Benoit Saint Denis will probably submit Kyle Prepolek or knock him out in the first round. Prepolek's been out of the UFC for like 4.5 years. Benoit Saint Denis going from a well-rounded opponent like Joel Alvarez, who's tall and rangy, to somebody that is an inch shorter than him with a shorter reach that doesn't do anything exceptionally well. I mean, this is like a blessing for Benoit Saint Denis to have such a free win, a layup. And this is like a tune-up fight, and that's really good for Benoit because, you know, he's in a tough position. If he loses his next fight, he might get cut from the UFC if he loses one more. Whereas if he wins, this could give him a lot of confidence. This will be a highlight reel for him. So even if he loses after that, it's like, all right, we'll still be in the UFC because, you know, he won't be so far removed from another win, right? So this will be a free win for Benoit. I'm sure he'll just go out there and destroy Kyle Prepolek however he wants. He'll probably be able to knock him out. If he doesn't knock him out, he'll take him down and submit him or ground and pound TKO him. So yeah, this fight card is not that great, man. It's not that great, bro. They stole fights from it just so that they can give us 2 shit Apex cards. And now this is the next thing we have to get hyped for. A fight that we've already seen in O'Malley and Merab. A women's MMA fight, which is okay. Let's be honest, it's all right. But Vicente Luque and Kevin Holland, it's just not 2021 anymore. It's just not hyped. Kevin Holland, when he was super active back in the day, like, he went from being a fan favorite to one of the most hated fighters. And also, Kevin Holland just doesn't care if he wins or loses at this point. So it's like, how hyped can you even get for a fighter like that? And then Vicente Luque clearly is not the same guy that he was in the past. All right? I know he's coming off of a win, but still. Calvin Gastelum, Joe Pyfer, that's like the only other good fight on the card. So there's 3 good fights. This is mid. Marlon Vera, Mario Batista's mid. Bruno Silva versus Joshua Van. Like, it's a good fight for Joshua Van. I look forward to see him get into the rankings. Oh, he's already ranked, so actually it won't even matter. It's a good win for him. I mean, it's obvious that he's going to win this fight, but, you know, is Joshua Van really like a big name fighter at this point? Are we really going to sit there and pretend that, wait a second, UFC 316 is actually so high, man? No, because there's absolutely nothing at stake here. There's nothing at stake. Okay? Marlon Vera, Mario Batista, there's nothing at stake. Calvin Gastelum, Joe Pyfer, there's a lot at stake here. There's a lot at stake here. There's some heat on this one. And there's a lot at stake every time Joe Pyfer is going to be making his comeback after fighting Jack Hermanson. By the way, where is Jack Hermanson? He should be on this card. He's not fought in ages. But here, Vicente Luque, Kevin Holland, nothing at stake. Luque wins, okay. Like, he's guaranteed to lose when he fights anyone in the top 10 at this point in his career. That's just how it is. And Kevin Holland wins. It's like, okay, what, Kevin Holland's back? We know he's going to get out-grappled by someone in the future. We've seen the fucking fight already, Dvalishvili and O'Malley. Like, this fight card is not even as hyped as this. What would you rather see? UFC 316, I've shown you it, or UFC Azerbaijan? Hill Roundtree, Fiziev Ignacio. Sadikov versus Mota is actually kind of a sick fight. Oh, the return of Horiguchi. Hiroguchi. Man, Horiguchi's an absolute monster. How old is this guy? He's probably like 40 years old. He's probably going to get absolutely destroyed in this one, let's be honest. But, you know, there's an old vet coming back. Hamdi Abdelwahad, man. You can't even tell me Hamdi Abdelwahad is not hype, bro. Versus Muhammad Usman. Jung Young Park is hyped every time he fights. You know, you want to talk about Joshua Van. Oh, Joshua Van's pretty good. Jung Young Park is like Joshua Van in the sense that every time you see one of them fight, you're tuned in because you're a fan of them and they got a fun style. Joshua Van is a prospect, so maybe you're, you know, a little bit more intrigued with his career than Jung Young Park, who is a little older. You know he's not going to be a champ, but Jung Young Park always brings it, right? This is on the fucking prelims of the Azerbaijan card. This is a hype fight. We like Jung Young Park. My point is, this is a fight night that's free, and this is a fucking $80 pay-per-view. Curtis Blades, Rizvan Kuniev, That's a better fight than Marlon Vera and Mario Batista. It is. 100% it is. So, yeah, man. Like, I said UFC 317 is about to be okay. But if we don't get the Makhachev-Topuria fight, fuck, man. Even if JDM does win, can Makhachev just fight Topuria? Because that's the one that the fans want to see. But whatever. Like, if we don't get that, it will be good if they announce other big fights. Like, if they do Whitaker versus Reynor to Ritter, there's some talks that that fight might happen. That would be pretty epic. If they do, like, you know, if they announce a big main event, obviously a Topuria fight with, like, a Whitaker fight. But you get my point. Like, they need to have big names on that. And they need to have a lot of big names. Okay? So, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Until next time.